Welcome to the American Roundtable. I'm Al Spry.
And I'm Will Strickler.
It's great to have you here in the Straight Talk Zone. Politics is unusual. On tap today, we have more about Mr. Trump, Ms. Clinton, Bernie Sanders, and we'll be talking about a follow-up to the story about the restaurateur who poisoned his guest. Sees what happens with him. It's a whole lot of fun. Plus, we have Paul McGlinchey coming in from Dublin, Ireland, talking about what's going on in Europe, and he's our European political analyst.
That's right. We have people all over the place.
It's great to have you here on the American Roundtable. So happy to be here on Tough TV every Wednesday and Saturday mornings. And we're looking, of course, to bring you the latest every week in what's happening in the political scene. And again, it is so happy to have you. We'll see you in just a moment with the American Roundtable. Welcome. It's the American Roundtable, and so happy to be here on Tough TV with, of course, the great Will Strickler. Will, how's things?
A lot of things happening in the news, Al. A lot of things.
All the kinds of things happening in the news. Bernie Sanders is having a little pick fight with the DNC chair. Her name is Debbie Wasserman Schultz. She's from South Florida. She's running for re-election. Guess what Bernie Sanders said? He's backing her opponent in the primary. He doesn't want her around. This is a big cat fight, don't you think?
Well, it seems that she would like to see Hillary get the nomination. Bernie's cause is still causing a lot of problems. He's got, it seems like he's been winning 3 out of 4 primaries lately. And, you know, he's kind of like rocking the boat.
He is rocking the boat, and the establishment doesn't like it. Says Wasserman Schultz, she's taking the political line, saying, quote, "I remain as I have been from the beginning, neutral in the presidential Democratic primary. I look forward to working together with Sanders for the Democratic victories in the fall." Although she didn't necessarily say his name, but she's trying to put the olive branch out. And, of course, at the same time, Clinton has turned down the final debate with Sanders. She was supposed to debate him one more time. She's trying to hold on to her lead. She doesn't want to give him any ammunition before the primary in California.
If she's got the lead, she doesn't want to say anything, or he would be the winner no matter what. That she has, they would debate, and he would come out ahead anyway because it's showing that his visibility.
Yeah, of course. Says Sanders, quote, "I hope Secretary Clinton reconsiders her unfortunate decision to back away from her commitment to debate," adding Clinton should not be so presumptuous about thinking that she is a certain winner. Well, you know, you could say something about Bernie. He's not a quitter.
Nope.
And we will see how that turns out.
You got to take a look when Trump didn't debate in Iowa, right? Mm-hmm. That it hurt him. So with her not going against Bernie, and it was already scheduled, then that seems to be an issue. She doesn't want to kind of like give him any more ammunition, like you said.
I agree. And if you might see some lines getting better at the airport, the TSA security chief has been removed, Kelly Hogan, out of a job. But he still received $90,000 in bonuses, even though he did a terrible job. I wish I could get $90,000 in bonuses for doing a bad job. I wish I could get $90,000 in bonuses for doing a good job. But Kelly Hogan's going to get a lot of bonuses. Plus, he was paid $181,500 last year. Quite a pretty penny.
It sure is.
And that's for being a total idiot.
But it just
so,
seems like
goodbye,
and
let's hope the lines get better.
We got a lot of things that we got to miss. We got the TSA, we got the veterans hospitals. I mean, we're dealing with some serious, it's like we keep dealing with these problems.
We'll have more, and we'll have some solutions for you with our friend, Paul McGlinchey, coming up next on the American Roundtable. Welcome back to the American Roundtable. So happy to have Paul McGlinchey on the line with us all the way from Ireland. Paul, it's great to have you on the American Roundtable.
Al, it's very nice to talk to you.
It's great to have Paul McGlinchey. He's our European political analyst. He's going to tell you about how things look in the race for president here to the folks over there. How are things in Dublin?
Things are okay. Al, we've just come off the back of an election here ourselves. It took a while for us to form a government, but they've managed to get in. with the main opposition from last year actually propping them up for a while. How long it lasts, nobody knows. We, of course, like everybody else around Europe, are watching very closely at what's going on in the U.S. The U.S. politics and the presidential race is a fascinating watch for everybody over here. The emergence of Donald Trump has caused a little stir in this side of the pond. Certainly when I meet U.S. tourists traveling these lands over here, they seem to have they seem to cringe at the mention of the U.S. presidential race. So it is extremely interesting for us. So
yeah, we're cringing a little bit. Donald Trump is a heck of a showman and a heck of a salesman, because he's been able to sell a lot of interesting stuff. He's been able to capture the Republican nomination, beating 16 other candidates, which I knew he would be good in the running, but I didn't think he'd have this much staying power. He must be really resonating with the people here. That's my thought. What are your thoughts over there?
Well, your presidential election is in the way that you actually run it, the way you pick the candidates first before they actually go into a full race. It brings back the old saying on democracy. Democracy is defined as where any two idiots can outvote genius. And it's the same not only in the US, but the same on this side of the pond as well. In fact, our local CEO of Ryanair, one of the most successful airlines in Europe, has warned our country that we should stop voting for the local lunatic. We, as a nation, and Europe as a nation, have concerns about an unqualified politician in the most powerful seat in the free world. Certainly, the rhetoric that comes out of Mr. Trump is causing all sorts of concerns. I could see why maybe that inside the US he's telling a good story, because he preaches a good story inside the US. So internal politics for the US is US business, but his foreign policy, which affects everybody on this side of the water, has got some people kind of shaking. And he's doing him no favors with the British. He certainly has insulted US, or the US's biggest ally, and over here as in Britain. His kind of handout to Kim in North Korea worries people over here. We would prefer to see a more experienced politician actually sitting in the seat. Everybody wants to say things, but saying things and doing, coming across as a politician are two different things.
Well, though, Paul, that a lot of times the politicians posture in order to get votes. I think that's what Trump is doing. I wouldn't believe everything that's coming out of his mouth. In fact, I'd probably believe very little coming out of his mouth, because even though he's not an experienced politician, he's a politician through and through. Your thoughts, Will?
Yeah, so Paul, do you and your buddies get together and you say, did you hear what Trump said today? I mean, you have discussions over there about the latest with Trump?
Absolutely. It comes in for a lot of, I suppose, a lot of the Saturday night comedy shows, that some of the stuff that comes out of here. But, he's told a message over there in the US, which not only resounds over in the US, but there's things happening across Europe as well. This huge migration from Syria and those other troubled lands right across Europe has brought its own troubles over here.
Well, let's go ahead and we'll talk more about that with Paul McGlinchey. And this is American Roundtable on Tough TV. Welcome back to the American Roundtable on Tough TV. Great to have Paul McGlinchey, our European correspondent, out there in Dublin, Ireland. Some interesting comments, Paul, about Donald Trump. What do you think about Hillary Clinton?
Well, as far as we're concerned, Clinton, even though with all her baggage, has got the experience of already being involved in politics on your side of the pond, and over here as well. She's toured all over here. We know she's a seasoned politician. We know that at least she may listen to her advisors. Our concern over here is that Mr. Trump may not listen to his advisors. Some of the sound bites that comes out of his mouth and some of the rallies that he's done so far would give us cause for concern that he won't listen to the people around him, that he will do what he probably has always done in his business life, has done it his way. In politics, as you know, sitting in the hot seat, you may be the mouthpiece of the country, but you are surrounded by advisors who are going to advise you what to do.
Well, Paul,
we possibly think that Mrs. Clinton possibly would listen to these things while we have concerns about whether Mr. Trump would or not.
Well, Paul, I know you pretty well. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and your dad's?
My dad was a politician. He was a senator for 25 years and a local representative for 45 years. Politically, we'd be connected to former prime ministers and Taoiseach of the day here in Ireland. We would have, our family would have been very well known politically as far as the government Fianna Fáil party are concerned. They are currently propping up the Fine Gael government at the minute, but politics, I suppose, in our family was a way of life. I grew up with it from my early years, and it's a very interesting topic, and it always fascinates us watching the U.S. system in progress. What really fascinates us is the amount of money that's involved in it. We don't have that over on this side of the pond,
but our system is highly corrupted at this point, so it must be quite surprising to you guys over there.
It is quite surprising that well, with the amount of money involved in your elections, I suppose that leads in a certain direction as far as corruption or the lobbying is concerned. But I mean, here politicians have been labelled with the same thing, not with the same amount of money involved, but former Taoiseach and prime ministers have been got themselves kind of down and dirty with business in this country too.
I guess it's all about gradation. You know, maybe it's just cheaper to buy guys off over there than it is here.
Yeah. Maybe they're happier over here with their fast cars and fine restaurants. So they are.
And don't forget the women. I mean, don't forget the women, Paul.
Well, my friend was deputy prime minister here for a number of years. She entered politics at 18 years of age, ended up deputy prime minister. Now retired out of it at the early age of 34.
Boy, I should be so lucky. I'm way past that, baby.
Yeah.
Hey, Paul, didn't you say when Kennedy went to visit in the early '60s that he stopped in and met your dad?
Yeah, my dad was, when Kennedy came here to visit, I have a photograph of my father with JFK. He spoke to both houses of Parliament when he was here, and he was accompanied at the time, of course, by Robert Kennedy. And I have a photograph of my dad with Robert Kennedy as well. It's a treasured possession of ours. As you know, the Irish and the US are deeply connected. So they are, in fact, 10% of all US tourists going to Europe, 10% of that actually come to Ireland. And I meet just busloads and tour loads of Americans touring here. In fact, I just sent back a couple of visitors from Pennsylvania. They're here last week. I met a couple of good guys from California, and of course we always just bring up the U.S. political scenario and Trump. And I must say that your system of being registered Democrat or registered Republican is very interested as well.
Well, let's finish up with you. This is Paul McGlinchey. He's our European political analyst, and you are watching the American Roundtable on Tough TV. This is American Roundtable on Tough TV, talking with Paul McGlinchey. Paul, welcome back to the show.
Hal, how are you?
We're doing great. Tell us more about that Syrian situation you talked about earlier.
Well, the Syrian situation has caused some problems caused a lot of problems actually. While everybody was opening or welcoming people with open arms at the very start, people's attitudes have slightly changed. Nobody, I don't think, was geared up for the mass movement of people that actually happened. There's been a kind of a hit back at everything that's been going on.
What do you mean by a hit back? What do you mean by that?
Certainly, there's a kind of a ripple of concern kind of shivered across Europe earlier on this week in Austria, when during their general election, their right-wing populist candidate, who was just a far-right candidate, was extreme far-right actually, was leading the way for the presidential election in Austria. Now, but Austria is not the novelty. There's been a regions and right-wing populist groupings among about anti-immigration and the Euro-skeptic slogans across Europe have been shown, have been kind of raising their heads. There's populist far-right resurgence in countries in Italy, in Germany, in Denmark, in Sweden, in Greece, France, and the Netherlands. And it's all coming, which is, I mean, you have Mr. Trump talking about this on your side of the pond, but he's not the only one that's talking about it.
So what do you think? The fascists are marching again, except it's Syrians instead of Jews, or what?
It's not just aimed at the Syrians. It's aimed at the. I mean, it's not just Syrians that are on the move, but it's certainly coming across. And the democratic people of all those countries that I named had their doors open and their arms out. They weren't prepared for the numbers that were appearing, and then this has caused problems, and especially caused problems in France and Belgium. So it has, and these latest or the earlier terrorist attacks there have kind of shook people a little bit, you know.
Yeah, everyone's getting scared, in other words.
Everyone's getting scared, yeah. Everyone's getting scared. The borders are starting to close up a wee bit. So they are, as you may know, inside Europe, all borders are open once you're inside the Schengen zone. Yeah. So if you come into the tip of Spain, you could travel anywhere in Europe freely without borders. But that's starting to change, so it is. And they're starting to, because especially with the Spanish south coast, you're right against Africa, you're right against the French Moroccans and the Algerians coming up there through France.
Well, I hate to cut you short, man, but it's definitely been an interesting conversation. We hope to do this again soon, Paul.
Okay, Al.
You have yourself a great one, and we appreciate you. Paul McGlinchey on American Roundtable. We'll be back with more after this.
See you, Paul.
Welcome back to American Roundtable on Tough TV. It's so good to have Paul on. Thanks for bringing your friend on the show, Will.
Yeah, well, Paul's a knowledgeable guy. I've known Paul several years, so when he comes back, then we'll get the inside scoop on just what's going on with the rest of the issues over there. Maybe talk about the terrorism, the Egyptian airplane, just the general feeling of people in Europe about the terrorist attacks or potential attacks.
Well, this is a follow-up to a story that we did, I believe it was last week. A dishonest, penny-pinching British restaurateur is going to prison for 6 years for a curry dish that killed one of his customers. Mohammed Zaman was sentenced after being found guilty of manslaughter, first case of its kind. Manslaughter by gross negligence. Several food safety offenses as well in the 2014 death of Paul Wilson. He had a severe allergy to peanuts, but was given tikka masala, chicken tikka masala to be exact, which was coated in peanuts. They were supposed to be almonds. Mr. Zaman, however, wanted to save a few bucks, so he put peanuts in, didn't tell anybody.
I mean, how much money can you really save anyway by putting peanuts in there?
Probably not much. Paul Wilson died. Maybe he was just a psychopath. That's always possible. Mm-hmm. But anyway, he is going to jail. According to the prosecutor, Paul Wilson was in the prime of his life. He, like you, worked in the catering trade. This is what they told Mr. Zaman in his sentencing. He, unlike you, was a careful man. First of its kind verdict. There's a duty to take care of your customers. If you ignore your responsibilities and regulations and put lives at real risk, we will not hesitate to prosecute. So I think justice was done there. What do you think, Will?
Well, you know, it's risky business. You're feeding people. You have a lot of potential for liability. But then again, when you're cutting corners, bad things happen.
And, of course, 41 years later, Vietnam arms embargo is history. Obama announces the end of a Cold War vestige. So that means that it's the status quo. It's all about money, and the lives of 53,000 Americans who were supposedly fighting communism are for nothing. The deaths of these Americans is basically moot now, because we've established total diplomatic relations, and now we're going to sell them arms, and we're going to allow them to get arms, and they're still communist. It's the same government we fought during the Vietnam War.
Yeah, a lot of my friends died in Vietnam, and to see that we were all pretty much...
One word, shameful. This is the American Roundtable. We'll see you next week. I'm Al Spry.
And I'm Will Strickler.
Thanks to Tough TV. Take care.